Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Chandra, and I was so lucky to have a friend who gave me 40 pounds of peaches, or about 40 pounds. It was a lot of peaches, and it was so nice to have them shared with me. And I am putting them up in a few different ways. I'm starting here by loading up my dehydrator trays. I did first toss these peaches into boiling water to blanch them, which makes the skins very easy to slip off. And I'll show you that in a little bit here. But I'm slicing these up, and I also have a tray of the skins that I had removed, and that I'm going to dry up and then turn into a powder that I can add to anything I want peach flavor. I think that might even be fun in ice cream, which I didn't try that yet, but I did make ice cream by the end of this video, and it's incredible. So there they are going into my dehydrator, and now I'm going to get some of these skinned peaches into the freezer. So again, I will slice these into the size I would want to use, whether I'm using them in a smoothie or in a crisp, which I have done, or a cobbler, which I have also done. And then you need to add a little bit more of a thickener agent when you're using peaches or any fruit right out of the freezer, because they have more liquid then come out of them. But otherwise, that's the only change you need to make. They're just really great. So I will put these on a tray to flash freeze them so that they won't stick together in a clump when I move them into a Ziploc freezer bag. So here I am blanching the peaches. I'm just putting a little X in the bottom so that the skin can just slide right off. All I could think about while I was taking these skins off was what beautiful little golden orbs they were, and it was very pleasant to work with. Now, after about 6 nights of working with peaches every single night, I was ready to be done looking at them, but now they're all put up and I've been enjoying them in so many different ways. So I have a little assembly line thing going where they need to be in the water for 30 to 60 seconds. So once I drop the first peach in, I start my kitchen timer for 1 minute and just go until I reach, or rather I set it for 30 seconds and I go until I reach that 30 seconds, and then they're in there for 30 to 60 seconds. And that way I can just really do it quickly. Once they come out, ideally they sit for just a minute to cool down, and then if they have been in there long enough, the skins slip right off so easily. And then I have them sometimes going into a bowl of lemon juice water if I'm going to be drying them or using them in some application where I don't want them to turn brown. Now when I freeze them, that's not necessary because they freeze too quickly to oxidize. Now, as I said, I am saving the skins to dehydrate, and I'm also saving the pits because you can, and it's a little controversial because there is a toxin in the seed that's inside the pit. But there's also people who say that if you cook those before you use them, it is not toxic. And the way you would use it is to make an extract. So it's kind of like and it has like an almond extract type flavor. So it would be used in extremely small quantities. So I am saving all my pits, and I think I will use them for that. They right now are just in my freezer. I have not gotten to doing the extract. You have to roast the pits, break them open, get the seed out, and I think you cook them again. That's not something I have looked into too much yet, but in the meantime, I am saving them, and maybe we will get to that sometime this winter. With this batch of peaches that I have just peeled, I'm going to make peach preserves. Now, I've made peach jam in the past, but I already have a little bit of peach jam in my pantry. From peaches that just were not ripening, so I was just cooking them and making them into jam over the summer. These peaches were ripening beautifully. So I want to make peach preserves, which is just a chunkier jam. And this is what I used to make the ice cream, which has been incredible, amazing. With the added sugar and the cooking of the peaches, which removes some of the water, they don't freeze really hard in the ice cream, so they're really pleasant to eat. Whereas I did use some of this before I added the sugar. I had a little bit left over from what I needed for the preserves, and I used it to make the first batch of peach ice cream. And those peaches did freeze a little harder, which is not a hardship, but I liked it better with the fully made preserves. So here I'm just following my recipe from the Pomona's pectin jam book, which I can put in the description. It just means you can use less sugar with this type of pectin. So I'm measuring out my peaches, which have been just cut and cooked in their own liquid a little bit. I need a certain amount here, and then I'll take the rest of the peaches and reserve those to make ice cream, and get these measured peaches back in the pot so I can add my calcium water and my pectin and my sugar. When you buy Pomona's pectin, which is the low sugar pectin, it does come with a little packet of dried calcium powder with directions to mix with a certain amount of water, and then I just store this in my refrigerator already mixed, and it lasts forever. Now I am adding lemon juice. I'll stir all of that in really well before I mix my sugar and pectin together and then add that. I did cut the sugar in this recipe by half. Sometimes it's not good to mess with the ratios in a jam or canning recipe, but sugar does not contribute to the safety of a recipe, so you can adjust that. And I thought this was plenty sweet with half the sugar. So if you have Pomona's Pectin Preserving Book, this recipe is on page 108, and I did use half the sugar. Once I have everything thoroughly mixed in here, preserves, just like a jam, need to come back to a full rolling boil before you turn off the heat. And a full boil means that you cannot stir it away. So that's what I'm looking for here. And once I reach that, I can turn it off and get it into my jars and into my canner. I am just looking for a 1/4 inch headspace here. I will debubble with a chopstick and then readjust if I need to, and these will go into the water bath canner for 10 minutes and then will cool for 5 minutes in the canner before I take them out. As I'm putting on my rings, the water has gotten hot enough to be about the same temperature as these preserves, so I'll get these fingertip tight and into the water. I have my pressure canner here, but I will just use it as a water bath canner. I won't seal it, and the steam will be able to escape, and we'll just keep a nice boil for these jars. Okay, here we are to the best part. Now this is a vegan ice cream, and you would not know it. It is so good. Even my husband, who is very discerning about taste, I think he might be a super taster, which has its good and its bad sides to it. He likes this ice cream, like goes and gets it out and eats it on his own. It has the right texture, it has the right flavor. It's incredible. And it's all the cashews. Remember when tofu was the magical ingredient? You can make everything out of it? Well, now it's cashews. So these cashews I soaked overnight in the refrigerator or on the counter for 4 to 5 hours. And it uses a lot of cashews. I buy cashews in pieces in bulk, so it ends up not being that crazy. You know, I wouldn't want to go and buy whole cashews at the store. That would be exorbitant to make things like this, but buying cashew pieces in large quantities and I store them in my freezer, it makes it really possible to have things like this. So I've got all my things in the blender, blended up really well, like for 4 minutes or so, 2 to 4 minutes, till it's very smooth. It does heat it up quite a bit in a high power blender like this, so it needs to be refrigerated until nice and cold before it goes into the ice cream maker. I did make this twice, like I said, first with just the cooked peaches before I made them into preserves, and then second with the preserves. And I think the preserves made a much nicer ice cream, so that is what I'll show you here. Before I end this video, I just want to show you what the dried peaches look like. Leo really likes these, my son, so he's been eating a lot of these. I like them too, and they'll be good in granola or any sort of trail mix and things like that. And there's one other project I did that I did not show you, but I'll show you the end result. And I have all these put away in my basement. Oh, and I have so many things that need to be put away. This happens every year when I'm just throwing stuff down here that I've preserved and nothing has a spot yet. But these peaches made it in here. And these are peaches in a syrup. So this is a half peach. I cut them in half, took the pits out, and I made a light honey syrup. And these I made specifically for Leo, my 8-year-old, because he's been seeing kids when he goes to his different programs with peach cups from the store. And he wanted something like that. So I take these, I open it up, take a couple halves, 2 to 4 halves out, and cut them into pieces, put them in a little, what are those? Those little, like not a half pint, but the half of a half pint, like a quarter pint, which is the right size of a fruit cup that you would buy. A little bit of the syrup, and he's been really liking that.